Mm-mm. Check, check, check. Alright. Rocking now. Cool. So nobody's here, right? But just for the test, see how we're feeling, see what we're saying. Alright, so right now, it's more of a live stream from the standpoint of trying to get better at what I do. And I create content on a regular basis, so to get to a place where something feels a bit uncomfortable, it's a bit unique for me. Because live streaming is the only piece of content that I haven't really gotten much experience in. I've done a lot of pre-production stuff, pre-recorded stuff. I do that on a regular basis, but live stream, you don't get no chance to get a second chance at it. So I've been doing live content behind the camera, but in front of the camera, it's a little bit, unique, to say the least. So right now, I'm in the process of just trying to figure out ways to get better. So I subscribe to a few pieces of content, of newsletters that give me information on content, that what's going on in the creative space. I get information about content that's going on in the professional space, and how that relates to us as creatives here, right? Because what's going on in the world has a direct effect on us. And yes, we are ones that are way more technical. We are way more analytical as it pertains to trying to figure out our specs, our camera specifics, our lenses, our lights, and all that type of stuff, which is cool. But at the end of the day, it gets to a point where what's actually going on out here, right? Because you look at our country, how we're working, and it's a great place to be, and we still have ways to grow. But there is also an industry standard, and so I'm actually being exposed to the industry standard from a written standpoint. So I'm reading and learning more about how things are getting faster, how things are getting smoother, how storage is becoming bigger. And so that process is something that I try to stay on top of, and not necessarily just keep it to myself, but share it along. And so some of the topics that I see that might find interest to me, I think it may be something that we all could benefit from, just even discuss even. So um, yeah, let's get right into it. So the first topic that I saw was roll off. Right, roll off is a topic that is something that we don't talk about often, but it's a situation where we look at how we navigate our exposure, right? You know, how we navigate everything. So from the standpoint of essentially roll off is the analysis of your camera, recognizing the highlights and the shadows, and how it complements between it all, right? So an article that I found, well, that I read was essentially, what is roll off, from Frame.io, right? See this, right? You don't see that. You don't see that. You don't see that. Right? What is roll off, right? And if you see, the article was written by Colin Kelly, right? And it essentially talks about like the basics of it. That's the diagram. If you edit in DaVinci Resolve, that's essentially what comes out of it. Um, and so, if you look in this image, this is the idea of what roll off actually is, right? Each color from black to white, or each shade from black to white, is evenly distributed within the camera sensor, so that the image is capturing all the dark images and then all the light images, all the highlights. And we know that when we pay for different cameras, you look at camera depth, right? You look at the sensor size. That's some of the things that we're talking about. Like the better camera, the more expensive camera, the more the better the camera depth is. So this icon right here is easy to tell, right? And so when you look at that, you want to get this as much as possible. Now, some cameras that have less camera depth, they they black out the shadows. So the darker the image, or whatever that is in the image, if it's darker, the darker it is, it's gonna go straight black. So we'll not be able to tell the detail. Or another example, on the light side of things, if your highlights are too bright, if you ever expose your image, what's the deal, right? So the concept that I came up with is, what's the point of it? Is it as big as a deal as people are making out to be? Right? Is it really important? Right? Because if you got these diagrams that intentionally tried to create this image from dark to light, is it even important? Right? So I'm reading through it. Okay. Cool. So then we go to article written by Norm Kroll, and the article is Why Roll-Off Matters. As much as dynamic range is affordable, and which affordable camera does it the best. So so basically, the definition of roll-off is a way of thinking. We're taking a large dynamic range and compressing it into a smaller dynamic range in such a way that we can see details without darkening or flattening out our entire image. And so this article that Norm Kroll talks about, it gives the example of, the article pretty much talks about the transition of filmmakers and what we looked for in equipment and what we valued in equipment in the past to what we value in it now. So originally it was transferring from 60 FPS to 24, looking for cinematic image. And then you looked at depth. Then you looked at log footage. Right? That's part of the reason why we shoot log, you know that. So it gets to a point where, is it even important? Is roll-off even that big of a deal? Right? Is roll-off even that big of a deal? Is it even important? Yes, it matters. Yes, it values. Yes, it's valuable. Yes, if you shoot regular video, it has its strengths, but is it as important? So my hot take for the topic of roll-off is that good camera depth covers up bad lighting conditions, right? So if you have a camera that has good camera depth, or high depth, or high ratio, high bit rate, not bit rate, but a high ratio, it will allow you to cover up the inconsistencies that lighting may bring in any situation, right? And so, let me see, right? And so, the way I look at it is that people are trying to get better cameras to decrease the level of lighting techniques, right? People don't know how to add light. People don't know how to reflect light. People don't necessarily know how to absorb light, right? But they use camera depth to cover it up. People shooting flat profile to cover it up. People shooting low profiles to cover it up. People shooting, people add LUTs on it just to cover it up, right? And then from the average consumer standpoint, can they even tell? They can tell when it's blowing out. They can tell when it's too dark. But do they know why? It's not really their job to know why. But us as content creators, do we know how to solve these issues? Right? As opposed to just saying, I got this camera down. Right? And so for me, I'm like, I don't even think that's big. It's that big of a deal, truthfully. Right? In the filmmaking standpoint, if we're shooting in flat profiles, right? If we do our work in, like, what am I saying? Hold on. All right, let's go back to the article. So the article explains, like, why does it matter? You know, it'd be the article that Normcore actually explains really well is that in film situations, because of what you're shooting on is very soft, you'll be able to get a roll off of shadows to highlights or highlights to shadows. But in the digital space, that's pretty much what we're paying for. It's a limit, right? So it will become, the roll off become natural until it's a cutoff point, then become white. On the flip side, if it becomes too dark, it will just be a cutoff point and it becomes black, right? It'll start clipping. I think that's what Norm starts explaining it as. So for us as creators, my thing is it that big of a deal? Is it that? And then let's go in the photography side of things. If we're shooting in RAW, does it even really matter what our lighting conditions are? We can have a shot completely blown out. If it's blown out and we just scale back the exposure bit, you would not even be able to tell. Right? So like my thing is roll off even that big of a deal? Or even more of a statement, good camera depth conflicts, or good camera depth covers up bad lighting exposure, bad lighting conditions. So us as a creative, what are we doing? Are we focusing on the lighting or are we focusing on the camera? What's our point here? Right? Because if we're focusing on the camera, it will continue to get better. It will continue to get better. But what are we doing as creatives? Are we becoming more and more lazy? Right? If we're getting better cameras, are we becoming more lazy as creatives? If we can have a camera that can do autofocus or AI detection, right? Are we losing the craft from the standpoint of creativity from the technological standpoint? Are we making it easier for us to become creatives, or are we making it more lazy to create quality content? Right? And as us creators, we're gonna decide which path we're gonna go on. Right? Because if we're getting a camera that's got better camera depth, easier roll off, being able to create sharper, cleaner, smoother images, are we still investing in lighting? Right? This is something I'm learning about myself. Right? I put something on Threads time ago, and it got some attention. And got from the standpoint of, as I got older, I valued the camera image less and valued lighting more. And it got a little bit of attention, not a lot, but a little more attention than I was used to. And so I was like, okay, is this even that big of a deal? Right? And so when you look at roll off, you look at a situation where people are getting better cameras but not understanding lighting enough, it always makes me question, like, what are we doing here? Right? If in the film world, if you can shoot raw, you don't really need lights. In photography world, if you shoot raw, you don't really need lights because you can fix it in post. But in doing so, are we losing the creative aspect of it? Because some of the fun is playing around with lights. Right? In LensCrafters, just from the meetups, the area of growth that we had just playing around in the studio was way different than the area of growth that we had when we were out in the field. Right? We knew how to expose properly. We knew how to frame properly. We knew how to look for the light and the shadows while we were on location outside. When we got in the studio, it was like a museum. I remember a meetup that we had, I think January, February, up Seamless. It was like a museum. We were like, what can we touch? What can't we touch? Myself included. It's like an overwhelming experience because you have the ability to create something, whatever you have the imagination, whatever's in your mind. You're in the studio, you can create it by the addition or the subtraction of lights. Right? So my thing is, at the end of the day, are we focusing on the camera or are we focusing on the light? Right? Because if we add more camera depth, if we get more roll off, if we get the more specs into creating more specs and stuff, are we ending up going to are we gonna end up losing our laziness in the creative space? Right, that's my thing. I don't want us as creators lose our creativity and become more lazy because technology has gotten better and gotten faster. Let me know your thoughts, man. Let me know how you feel about that idea of roll off. Is it that big of a deal to you, or is the statement true? Better roll off, more roll off will create, um, more roll off, or better roll off, or higher camera depth is just a compensation for bad lighting conditions. Let me know what you think. That's it for me. That's a quick little test, a quick little situation. Nothing crazy going on. Testing out this live stream. Still trying to figure out what I can say, what can I talk about. Still trying to get the gist out. For context, what we got going on. I'm recording it on OBS so that we can intend to use it for. So that we intend on using it for content, promotional. Right, it's still the first stream, right? So we're still getting the kinks out. But yeah, keep on tuning to the next one.